top story we're tracking this morning is the escalation in the protests in Iran and also the warning that's coming in from the United States. Iran, viewers, is seeing its most serious and widespread unrest in years, and the war of words with the United States is only intensifying. So protests have raged for about 2 weeks now. This was initially triggered by economic distress and also currency crisis, but many demonstrators have since turned openly against the regime with chants against Ayatollah Khomeini. Rights groups and international agencies are reporting that this crackdown has been severe, with the death toll only rising and the detentions have gone into thousands. Communication has been restricted or has been cut, and now comes the big statement from US President Donald Trump. United States is throwing its weight into this moment. Donald Trump has said Iran is looking at freedom. A loaded statement there coming in from Donald Trump. He says Iran is looking at freedom and that the United States is standing and is ready to help because Iran is looking at freedom. This is the latest. My colleague Rishabh is with us. We've been seeing protests raging on in Iran. We've been seeing a brutal crackdown on demonstrators, warnings being shot off by the United States. Ayatollah Khomeini too is projecting the protesters as those who are serving the interests of the United States. In the latest, when United States, Rishabh, says that, Iran is looking at freedom and US is ready to help, what does this mean?
If we look at Donald Trump says that Iran is looking at freedom and U.S. stands to help, which means that U.S. is ready to intervene if need be. And this is something that has been coming in from Washington for quite some time. Yesterday we saw that the Secretary of State as well mentioned that how he stands with the people of Iran. So the hints are clear from Washington that if need be, they will intervene. When, how, at what scale, that remains to be seen.
Okay, so the death toll is rising. There has been a brutal crackdown in Iran on protesters. Because the information is so restricted in Iran, the information flow is so controlled there, many reports are suggesting that the death toll is now reaching about 100, and the kind of detentions that have taken place has possibly gone up more than 2,000. Thank you, Rishabh, for joining us. We'll break down more layers of the story and we'll keep coming back to you. Take a look at these visuals on your screens. Over 100 people have been killed in the anti-regime protests in Iran, and now United States is saying that Iran is looking at freedom and the US is ready to help. Rabinder Sachdeva is joining us this morning. Mr. Sachdeva, good morning, and thank you for joining us on Times Now. Unprecedented crackdown on anti-regime protesters in Iran, but the United States now is throwing its weight in. Donald Trump says that Iran is looking at freedom and that US is ready to help. What implication are we staring at?
Thank you. Yeah, unprecedented crackdown, but also unprecedented, let's say, demonstrations, right? It's unprecedented, those demonstrations and those protests. That is then in turn leading to the crackdown by the regime. That's one. Secondly, it does seem, yes, that, Iran has seen protests over the years. 4 years ago, there was regarding that hijab and quite a few people mobilized. Then about 5 years before that, also there were protests. But this time the protests seem to have taken a very different, turn. And essentially it is driven definitely by the economic sanctions on Iran. Fundamentally, the issue is of, inflation and an economy that is down in the pits. That all is because of the sanctions on Iran. So the objective of American sanctions is being achieved, one. That's why America imposes sanctions on Cuba, North Korea, that you are able to hit their economy, the people get hit, and in turn they get dissatisfied with the rulers and then overthrow the rulers. That's the script out there. So it has definitely impacted. And America is, by making these statements, is definitely emboldening the opposition inside Iran, because there is opposition to the Islamic regime inside Iran. In fact, there are insurgencies also, separatism also, as you would know, in the north towards the in Kurdish regions, right? They got their own separatist movement going on. In the south here, bordering Pakistan, the Baluchistan of Iran, you have separatist movements going on there also. So a bunch of things are happening, and America, by making these statements, kind of gives psychological boost, I think, to the to the protesters as to what America will actually do. We don't know. Let us see. But yes, on the ground inside Iran, there are Iranian agents who are definitely brewing the pot.
Okay.
So all that combination is ongoing. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sachdev, for joining us and weighing in with your perspective. Let me get in Patikrit Pen also. Good morning, Patikrit. Donald Trump says Iran is looking at freedom and that the United States is ready to help. This statement coming in at a time when we are seeing, protests raging on, the death toll rising because of the brutal crackdown, and also the warnings that are being shot off by Ayatollah Khamenei as well. What do you think is going to happen next in Iran?
Well, we know how United States gave freedom to Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, what happened over there, and eventually what kind of mess was created. So invariably, there is absolutely no doubt that Iran is in a huge turmoil, and a lot of, responsibility is with the Iranian regime. They could have taken care of their economy even more. They had overstretched themselves by, spending too much money on Hamas, Houthis, and Hezbollah. The way their conduct with the women has not been up to the mark. There are atrocities that happened, and there is a public, protest. People are angry with the inflation. These are absolutely justified reasons. But if the Americans think that they can go and, start fishing in the muddied water, then it will only create more chaos. Every country where the Americans have stepped in the name of giving freedom, that country has been in total turmoil, whether it is Libya, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, and many others. So I think there are challenges. Invariably, the regime, whether the regime should stay or not, that is entirely up to the people of Iran to decide. But any external intervention, especially that of America, will only create more chaos. And we can, it is for sure that another country is getting into a perpetual era of turmoil and even potentially a civil war. So Iran, has a civilizational past. And Iran, since 1979, has seen extremely orthodox, governance model. That orthodoxy, somewhere the Iranian regime should have given some liberation. They should have relaxed many of the stringent norms there. They should have focused even more on the economy. It is true, the economic sanctions by United States have severely hit them. It is also true that the kind of plan they had for Chinese investments in Iran to the tune of $400 to $500 billion did not materialize.
Right.
So invariably, in an era, in a world where dollar is the reserve and the trading currency, economic sanctions do hit. But I think Iranian regime itself is equally responsible. However, Donald Trump, if he thinks that he will do a Venezuela, it is certainly not possible because Iran has huge strategic depth. It is a big country. It has a formidable army. External intervention by military will only create more chaos.
Okay, thank you so much, Patikrit, for joining us. So, in the latest, viewers, it is Donald Trump, and everybody's talking about the warning that he's issued. When Donald Trump says that Iran is staring at freedom and the United States is ready to help, what does this mean? Is this a pressure tactic or is there something more? KP Fabian, former diplomat, is also with us on this broadcast. Mr. Fabian, as the world looks at these raging protests that are ongoing in Iran, as we analyze the warnings and the counter that's coming in both from the United States and Iran itself, can there be, like many are talking about, a regime change at this point of time? Is the United States now issuing these warnings because, it is intending to do something of that sort?
Morning. I do not know whether President Trump is seriously considering to repeat what he did in Venezuela. But if he is seriously considering it, he should look at it again, because it will not be possible for the Pentagon come CIA to do that. Iran is a different kettle of fish. But having said that, let me make it abundantly clear when President Trump is saying that Iranians are wanting freedom and America is prepared to help, he does not mean it. He doesn't mean that he wants to see a democratic polity in Iran. What he wants to see in Iran is chaos and chaos and chaos to Israel's benefit. And eventually, if things turn out in some way or other, American oil companies would like to go there.
Right.
So that is his motivation. His motivation is not the liberation of the people of Iran.
Right.
And one more point. The Ayatollah Khomeini has got it completely wrong, calling them vandals. These are ordinary Iranians protesting mainly for economic reasons, and these economic reasons caused mainly because of American sanctions.
Okay.
And when there is scarcity, there will be corruption.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Fabian, for joining us on this broadcast. So here, we're getting you a nuanced perspective of everything that's happening in Iran. And take a look at these pictures on your screens. These are the scenes of protests that are raging on. And this has been happening for more than 2 weeks now. The regime in Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini and, the state media there in Iran is branding protesters as terrorists. But right now, it is the United States which has once again issued a warning saying that do not open fire or America will respond. Marco Rubio, the United States Secretary of State, has publicly said that United States supports the brave people of Iran. And as the world is now watching the crackdown and the blackout, there is another layer. There are reports in the United States itself. The U.S. media is saying that the Trump administration has been calibrating its response to avoid lighting a fuse in a region that is already on the edge, even as it wants to keep the pressure on Tehran. And that's what our experts here who are joining us on this broadcast who've been telling us throughout that Donald Trump possibly cannot do what he did in Venezuela. He cannot repeat that in Iran. Why? Because of the strategic depth of Iran. So this is America's message of deterrence, which is mixed with political signaling. Washington is weighing its options and is also watching every development as it's unfolding in Tehran. Here's the latest from Donald Trump.
So Iran's in big trouble. It looks to me that the people are taking over certain cities that nobody thought were really possible just a few weeks ago. We're watching the situation very carefully. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. And that doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it means hitting them very, very hard where it hurts. So they've done a bad job. They've treated their people very badly, and now they're being paid back. So let's see what happens. We're watching it. We're watching it very closely.
So how has Tehran responded? You heard what Donald Trump said. In his post, in his latest social media post, he also said Iran is looking at freedom and United States is ready to help. Meanwhile, Tehran has also responded sharply. Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has accused protesters of acting to please the United States, and also Iran's establishment is now signaling a tougher line of action and crackdown on protesters. In the recent days, viewers, Iranian authorities have spoken about the enemy's plots. That is the reference that they've made constantly. And also this is hardline messaging that has intensified. Iran's judiciary and also prosecution have issued severe warnings, which include the use of the charge of enemy of God, a term that can carry death penalty under the Iranian law. The state media in Iran, meanwhile, has been presenting these protesters as rioters or as terrorists and has been highlighting the casualties among security forces. Now, what is China's role in all of this? We told you about the response of the United States. We told you about what's happening in Iran. We told you about the response that's coming in from the state regime there. But China, too, is watching closely. Beijing now says that it stands firmly against any kind of external interference in Iran's internal affairs and is also expressing hope that Iran can maintain national stability. China has economic and strategic interests in Iran, including energy and also regional influence. So we're expecting Beijing right now to back stability and not any kind of, street revolution. The death toll, meanwhile, viewers, is contested because Iran is restricting information flow. Multiple international reports and rights groups are saying that the death toll is only rising fast. Earlier, there are media reports that have cited activists who are saying that at least 116 people have lost their lives and more than 2,600 have been detained. And these are numbers as of the 10th of January. Why is this such a concern for India? Take a look at your screens. We are going to delve into the reasons. One of the reasons is Iran's instability has put the strategic Chabahar port at risk, threatening trade, connectivity, energy security, and India's access route to Afghanistan. We're going to take you through more details. Now, why are these protests so worrying for India? Reason number one, like we told you, it is the Chabahar port which is at risk. Reason number two, it is about trade. It is about connectivity that could get hit. Reason number three, this is about regional instability that can cause this kind of a spike. Then also there are Indian interests in Iran. Energy security concerns are a major reason of worry. Then there can be an impact on the India-Afghan route. And that is why the protests in Iran and the kind of warnings that are being shot off by the United States, the counter that's being given by Iran, the way China is responding, all this becomes extremely important in the current geopolitical scenario. With that, we are also now going to tell you, about the latest that's happening. So in the latest, we've told you about how it is the United States, which is saying that Iran is looking at freedom and US is ready to help. US constantly piling on the pressure. Meanwhile, we are going to tell you about the latest information that's coming in. As these anti-government protests rage on in Iran, Crown Prince, that is Reza Pahlavi, has said that the world today stands with the national revolution and admires courage. Here he's speaking in favor of, one, what the US has said, and number two, also in favor of the protesters. He also points out the message that's coming in from Donald Trump. He says that President Donald Trump has declared that he's ready to help, and I know I will soon be by your side. He's also sent out a message to those who are protesting against the Ayatollah Khamenei regime. My compatriots, this is Reza Pahlavi, the exiled crown prince, who says, by your widespread and courageous presence in the streets across Iran for third consecutive night, you have severely weakened Khamenei's repressive apparatus and his regime. Reliable reports have reached me indicating that the Islamic Republic is facing severe shortage of mercenaries to confront the millions of people in the streets. And so far, many armed security forces have left their workplaces or disobeyed orders to suppress the people. What remains for Khamenei is a minority of violent mercenaries who, like their criminal leader, are non-Iranian and anti-Iranian and consider you, the great nation of Iran, their enemy. Know that they will face consequences for their actions. Here is